If Cy proved the state's phone data was flawed in the Idaho4 case, why didn't he say Brian Kohberger's phone was exonerating? The answer comes down to one phrase he kept repeating. I've watched a lot of reactions to Cy's interview. Creators kept rewinding it. They kept looking for things in his report that weren't there. Some wondered why he was talking about things outside his written opinion. At least one asked why, if he believed what he was saying, he didn't switch sides. Those reactions all have something in common. They assume Cy spent the interview talking about one body of evidence. I don't think he did. I think he moved between two different discussions. The problem is that almost no one noticed when he made the transition. The first discussion is the easiest to recognize because Cy tells you exactly where the boundary is. That's the foundation of the expert opinion that he submitted to the court. It's also the limit of his opinion. An expert opinion isn't a catalog of everything the expert knows. It's an answer to a specific question based on material provided by the state. While that answer has to be truthful, defense opinions are almost always framed in favor of the defendant. A creator saying it's anything else is a misunderstanding of what an expert witness is hired to do. An expert doesn't switch sides because they discover additional information. They render opinions within the scope of the questions they were retained to answer. If they agree with the state, they'll usually not respond to that fact, data, or evidence. If they encounter information outside that scope, it doesn't automatically become part of their report. So far, everything fits for Cy. Then something changes. Listen carefully.
I can tell you that I feel very comfortable that Brian Kohberger was in the general area of the house several times leading up to the murders. I think he came by the house the next morning. I think he came by the house the day after that. So there's more than enough evidence to show that. There are databases and ways that if the right people use the right legal process to exploit today, the data's still there. There is some really good information that could come out that I believe would show the device actually at or inside the house opposed to just near it.
That's no longer an explanation of his report. It's a discussion about the investigation. Keep listening.
I feel very comfortable stating there is no work product in this case that took the 4 victims' phones, 6 months worth of records, which they have, it's in evidence, took Brian Kohberger's 6 months worth of records and sat down and did a deep dive analysis of seeing where those devices intersect and when they collide.
Now he's talking about investigative steps, not report conclusions. Then he talks about the return trip, pattern of life, the Snake River, navigation activity. Ask yourself something. Why are those topics part of this interview? They aren't necessary to explain why the CSLI report is flawed. They're necessary only if you're talking about something else. And I think that's exactly what Cy was doing. He wasn't expanding his report. He was expanding the conversation. One discussion was about the opinion that he was retained to provide. The other was about where a proper digital investigation could lead. Those aren't the same thing. And once you separate them, another assumption starts to fall apart. For months, people have treated 3 different things as if they were interchangeable. Cy's written opinion, the defense exhibits, and the state's case for digital evidence. Cy's opinion addresses the material provided by the state to the defense. The defense exhibits challenge specific claims made by the state. Neither one claims to be a complete inventory of the digital evidence in the case. Think about what we've actually seen. We've seen an expert opinion. We've seen defense rebuttals to some of the state's slides. We haven't seen the state's full trial presentation. We haven't even seen the defense's complete presentation. So how can we be confident that we're even looking at the entire digital picture? We can't. That's why I don't think the interview should be viewed as a complete discussion of the evidence. I think it's an interview where an expert repeatedly distinguishes between the opinion he was retained to provide and investigative avenues that extend beyond that opinion. Whether those avenues ultimately help the prosecution, the defense, or neither isn't the point. The point is that they exist. And that's why I think so many people walked away from that interview asking the wrong questions. Not because they misunderstood his report, but because they assumed that his written opinion was the entire discussion. I don't think it was. I think his written opinion answers one question. Can the state's geolocation analysis be trusted? That's the question he was retained to answer. It's not the only question. If you're someone who spends your life reconstructing events from digital evidence, like me or Cy Ray, it's hard not to wonder what the complete picture looks like. And I think Cy Ray was interested in that question too. You can hear it in the interview. Once he finishes explaining the basis for his opinion, he starts talking about everything else that wasn't necessary to reach that opinion. Pattern of life, 6 months of records, phones intersecting, additional databases, mapping all of the data. Those aren't the building blocks of his report. They're the building blocks of a much larger reconstruction. I think Cy Ray was interested in that something bigger, whatever that is. If he had all the available digital evidence, not just the material underlying his opinion, what story would it tell? And would that story be in favor of Mr. Kohberger or prejudicial to him? And I think he might have also given us his answer. If you like my videos and how I present the information, please subscribe and like the video.